You probably remember The Devil Wears Prada as a straightforward story about a nightmare boss and her ambitious young assistant. But what if I told you that for almost 2 decades, we've been rooting for the wrong person? This isn't just a movie about fashion. It's a story that brilliantly exposes uncomfortable truths about female ambition, the quiet poison of sexism, and a devil you might have completely missed. We've been asking who the devil is when we should have been asking what it is. Let's start with the so-called devil herself, Miranda Priestly. When the film came out, she was painted as the villain-in-chief, a monster who terrorized her employees for sport. We saw her through Andy's eyes.
Hi.
Cold, demanding, and impossible. She was the ice queen on the throne of a fashion empire, and we all loved to hate her. But watching it now, after years of cultural shifts, you start to see her through a new lens. A lens that asks, was Miranda really a monster, or was she just a woman who was unapologetically brilliant at her job? Think about her most iconic moment, the cerulean sweater monologue. Andy smirks, thinking she's above a silly debate over 2 identical blue belts. Miranda, without ever raising her voice, completely dismantles Andy's smug sense of superiority. She explains how the very sweater Andy chose to prove she was above fashion was, in fact, the product of countless decisions made by the people in that very room.
You're wearing a sweater that was selected for you by the people in this room from a pile of stuff.
This wasn't cruelty, it was a masterclass. It was a lesson in the invisible work and artistry that Andy, in her intellectual arrogance, had totally dismissed. And let's be honest, the critique of Miranda has always been gendered. A male executive with her same standards, her cutthroat decisions, and her unwavering commitment to excellence would be hailed as a visionary, a genius. Steve Jobs was celebrated for the very traits that got Miranda labeled a devil. Miranda's biggest sin wasn't her perfectionism. It was her refusal to be likable. She didn't ask for friendship, only for respect. And in the mid-2000s, an ambitious woman who refused to soften her authority was seen as a threat. Miranda operates in a system that forces her to be twice as good and twice as tough just to keep her power. We get a glimpse of this when her husband drunkenly embarrasses her at a gala, and later when she quietly tells Andy about her impending divorce.
Wow, what an amazing day.
Knowing exactly how the press will use it to frame her as a failure. Her final act toward Andy isn't villainy, it's mentorship. Even after Andy dramatically walks away, Miranda gives her a glowing reference, recognizing the very potential she helped shape. She saw a glimmer of herself in Andy's ambition and, in the end, respected her choice, even if it wasn't the one she would have made.
Okay, she's tough, but if Miranda were a man, no one would notice anything about her except how great she is at her job.
Now, let's talk about our supposed hero, Andy Sachs.
Yeah, I am.
We're meant to see her as the relatable everywoman, a serious journalist who accidentally falls into the silly world of high fashion. Her story is framed as a triumph. She masters an impossible job, earns her tough boss's respect, and ultimately gets the career she wanted. But looking back, was her transformation really a story of empowerment, or was it a story of selling out? Andy doesn't succeed by being herself. She succeeds by molding herself into someone else entirely. She sheds her lumpy blue sweater and her moral high ground to fit into a world she once openly mocked. The movie plays this off as a fun choice, complete with a glamorous makeover montage set to a catchy pop song. But is it really a choice when you have to change your appearance, your values, and your priorities just to be taken seriously at work? She doesn't just change her clothes, she changes her identity, adopting the consumerist mindset she once hated. This is where the film's message gets complicated. Andy's friends and boyfriend are mostly shown as unsupportive and jealous, but are their concerns really that off base? They watch her become someone who ditches her friend's art show and her own boyfriend's birthday for a work event. The movie frames them as obstacles to her success, but you could also see them as anchors to the person she claims she wanted to be. The story is driven less by fashion and more by a deep-seated class anxiety. Andy's real journey is about climbing the social ladder, moving from a world of cheap rent and grilled cheese to one of couture and exclusive parties. We get a vicarious thrill watching a normal person infiltrate the elite. Her success feels intoxicating because it's a power fantasy. In the end, Andy walks away. But let's not forget, she keeps the clothes. And she lands her dream job because of her time at Runway, not in spite of it. She didn't really escape the system, she just learned how to make it work for her. For years, the debate was all about whether Miranda was truly evil. But lately, a new consensus has emerged, pointing to a far more sinister villain hiding in plain sight, Andy's boyfriend, Nate. On the surface, he's the supportive, down-to-earth guy. He's a chef, he makes her grilled cheese, and he represents the real world Andy is supposedly leaving behind. But if you watch him closely, you realize his support is completely conditional. It only exists as long as Andy stays exactly the person he wants her to be. The second Andy starts taking her job seriously, adapting, succeeding, and even enjoying it, Nate's support vanishes. He belittles her achievements, mocks the industry she's in, and constantly makes her feel guilty for her ambition. His frustration boils over when she misses his birthday for a crucial work gala. He frames it as her choosing work over him, but his anger isn't just about a missed party. It's about his loss of control. He liked the Andy who looked down on the fashion world because it made him feel superior. As she starts to find her footing and respect her work, he sees her slipping away, and his immediate reaction is to pout and guilt-trip her. His most revealing line is when he sneers, "I'm not the one whose friends are making fun of her behind her back." It's a cruel, manipulative jab meant to isolate her. He doesn't have a mature conversation. He whines and plays the victim. Years later, the actor Adrien Grenier even admitted that he was too immature at the time to see his character's flaws. He now recognizes Nate was a fragile, wounded boy who couldn't handle his girlfriend's success. Sure, you can argue Nate was just worried Andy was losing herself, but his concerns were so wrapped in passive aggression and self-pity that they felt less like support and more like sabotage. While Miranda, the devil, challenges Andy to be better, Nate just seems to want her to stay small. So, if Miranda is a misunderstood mentor and Nate is a manipulative boyfriend, where does that leave us? It forces us to look past the characters and at the real antagonist of the film, the system itself. The Devil Wears Prada is a perfect snapshot of toxic grind culture, where total exploitation is just framed as paying your dues. Runway magazine operates on ever-moving goalposts and impossible demands, all designed to keep employees in a constant state of anxiety.
Yes.
It's a culture that fetishizes professional sacrifice, where missing birthdays and ditching your friends is a required price for success. Emily gets sick and keeps working, and it's treated like a badge of honor in a system where self-care is seen as weakness. Miranda didn't invent this system. She's a product of it, forced to be ruthless to stay at the top. And Andy gets completely consumed by it, letting her job bleed into every corner of her life until there's nothing else left. The film, maybe unintentionally, glamorizes this whole process, making Andy's frantic 24/7 hustle look like an essential rite of passage. So, who's the real villain? The demanding boss, the unsupportive boyfriend, or the toxic system that turns them all against each other? The film is so brilliant because even after all this time, there's still no easy answer. Let me know in the comments who you think the real devil is. And if you enjoyed this fresh look at a classic, make sure to subscribe for more deep dives.